What if one of the world's most famous voices had a side to his life that almost no one knew about for 25 years? Before stadiums, royal events, and global acclaim, Andrea Bocelli lived a life of quiet discipline and invisible struggle. Behind the spotlight was a long chapter shaped by hard choices, emotional risk, and an unshakable belief in his craft. Years that ultimately defined the artist the world would come to know. Long before his name meant anything to the public, Bocelli followed a relentless routine. From Tuesday through Sunday, he sang wherever music was needed. Piano bars, private gatherings, small events, crowded rooms where conversation swallowed melody. These were not prestigious stages. People talked, laughed, and often paid little attention. Bocelli wasn't introduced as a featured performer or rising talent, but he was background sound, there to maintain atmosphere rather than command focus. That kind of anonymity carries a heavy emotional cost. Singing without recognition slowly wears at confidence. There were no reviews, no applause to measure progress, no sense that the performance mattered beyond the moment. Bocelli had to offer his best voice to audiences who barely listened. That absence of feedback forced him inward. He could not rely on approval to guide him. Instead, he developed his own standards, becoming more demanding and precise with himself than any audience ever could. Yet anonymity also brought freedom. Without eyes fixed on him, he experimented. He learned to read a room instantly, to adjust tone and volume, to remain emotionally present even in casual settings. He discovered how to communicate through sound alone, see without image or reputation. Those instincts, built quietly, would later define his power on the world's grandest stages. At the same time, Bocelli lived two musical lives. His heart belonged to classical music, its discipline, tradition, and technical rigor. Opera was the center of his artistic identity, but reality demanded compromise. Classical opportunities were rare. Popular music paid the bills. Each night, he sang lighter material, while holding on to operatic dreams by day. The tension was constant. He feared drifting too far from the path he respected, worried that accessibility might weaken depth. Still, survival left no room for purity. He sharpened his technique in places that didn't demand it, protecting long-term goals in environments that didn't reflect them. Those years were emotionally intense. Travel and late nights led to brief but meaningful relationships. Bocelli fell deeply, even when connections were temporary. These experiences were not casual. They shaped his emotional vocabulary. Longing, vulnerability, affection. These feelings began to live inside his voice. Singing became more than technique. It became communication. For a long time, Bocelli believed serious music meant classical tradition alone. Popular music felt distant, even risky. But experience softened that certainty. He encountered pop songs that demanded restraint, clarity, and emotional honesty. He realized difficulty didn't always come from complexity. Pop music, at its best, required precision of feeling. That understanding brought doubt. Would crossing genres dilute his credibility? Would purists reject him? Instead of defending a fixed image, he chose curiosity. He listened, studied, and tested his voice in new ways. This openness changed how he sang. Phrasing became sharper. Silence gained meaning. Vulnerability moved forward. He didn't abandon rigor. Breath control and precision remained essential. But the goal shifted from impressing to connecting. Excellence, he realized, was about honesty and preparation, not category. Collaboration deepened that belief. Bocelli never treated duets as competitions. Singing with another artist was a conversation. a balance of listening and response. Genre mattered less than intention. Connection mattered more than dominance. These exchanges refined his humility and expanded his range. Performing in historic places taught him restraint. Singing near ancient landmarks demanded respect, not spectacle. Equally important were difficult nights in small venues, poor acoustics, fatigue, imperfect conditions. Those moments built resilience. Technique became survival. Confidence grew quietly. Bocelli's life is not a story of sudden triumph. It is a story of patience, discipline, and choosing growth over protection. From unnoticed rooms to iconic stages, his journey proves that depth is built long before recognition arrives. The hidden years didn't delay his success. They made it possible.